Hi, Richie.
Hi, Sin.
What is this?
This is a podcast only people on the Patreon can hear, so as you can tell, I'm in a very good mood. Because it means the damage done by this is minimized.
Yes.
Yeah, especially since we recently recorded an utter fucking train wreck involving multiple references to ICQ that is going to be put on YouTube publicly. Anyone can see it, but this is safely stored away on Patreon.
Right. And this is episode 2 of...
The Titbit Covenant.
Oh. Do you know we have Timbits in Canada? They're little donut holes sold at Tim Hortons.
Yeah, I believe there is actually a digression in an episode we recorded a couple of days ago about how you keep buying huge boxes of them and eating them all.
No, that's different. Okay, Timbits are little donut holes from like a big big coffee chain called Tim Hortons. I'm sure you've heard of it.
No, I haven't.
Have you heard of Starbucks?
Yeah.
So it's like that basically, but better. Have you heard of Second Cup?
No.
Okay, I guess that's also a Canadian thing.
We have Starbucks here,
Okay.
but nothing else really that I can think of.
Okay, so basically, Timbits are Tim Hortons, which is a big chain. But Mr. Puffs is what I was talking about the other day, and that's a smaller chain. These are Greek pastries. They're also donut holes, but they're like giant and they're much more delicious. I'm sorry, Tim Hortons, but Mr. Puffs is a lot more delicious.
Well, I don't think Tim Hortons is a Patreon supporter.
Okay. And what are we talking about today, Richie?
Well, so far you've talked about donut holes, but the topic of this is going to be blood vials. So if you've played Bloodborne and subscribed to this Bloodborne podcast but don't know what blood vials are, I mean, congratulations on making it that far into the game without being able to heal.
Actually, yeah. I mean...
Yeah. I had a friend of mine played one of the Mega Man games.
Mm-hmm.
And then he really excitedly told me, like when he was at the final boss, he's like, did you know that like the weapons do different damage to different bosses? I just figured that out. When he'd like beaten all 8 bosses and he had like one to go at the very end.
He got good. The rest of you casuals use different weapons, not him though.
Blood vials.
Okay. So I have the description of blood vials right in front of me.
Yeah. Where can people find the description of blood vials if they don't have Bloodborne handy?
Bloodborne-wiki.com. You were supposed to clap. Thank you. And the description reads, special blood used in ministration restores HP. Once a patient has had their blood ministered, a unique but common treatment in Yharnam. Successive infusions recall the first. And are... Okay, I feel like you should read this. I'm not reading this right. It's because as we know, I didn't have many hours of sleep.
Yeah.
So...
But you conceivably sound a bit like the doll. So it could be like the doll is telling us this.
No, she's much more like gentle than me. She's a good person.
Do you think there's like a doll of you that's nice? Made by your secret admirer who doesn't realize that you just shout constantly.
Oh my god, is that what happened to Gurman? He had like such an admiration for Maria that he didn't realize she had like weapons.
We never had to podcast with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Richie.
Special blood used in ministration restores HP. Hit points. Once a patient has had their blood ministered, a unique but common treatment in Yharnam, successive infusions recall the first and are all the more invigorating for it. Mm-hmm. No surprise that most Yharnamites are heavy users of blood.
Okay, can you read it in Gurman's voice, please?
No, because I'm too tired.
Can you read it in anyone's voice? Can you read it in my voice?
Well, couldn't you just read it? It'd be much more
I
accurate.
feel like we're going in circles. Can you read it in your Shakespearean voice?
No, because it's late and I don't want to wake people up by overacting.
Okay. Richie,
Yes.
hit points Lovecraft.
Hit points Lovecraft.
Hit points.
Restores Hewlett Packard. It's used for troubleshooting printers.
Alright. So, next time my printer is acting out, I just pour some blood
Next
in
time,
it.
if you get a virus, you use the blood vial to restore HP.
Can I just, cut myself and, pour that blood on my printer?
No, it's got to be Yarnamite blood.
Oh.
Mm.
You're right.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
let's look at this more closely. Special blood used in ministration. What does that mean?
Okay, so I think we need to step back a little bit. Because the idea is it's a blood vial, but the key thing is that it's a vial of Yharnam blood.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like we just find blood lying around. The idea is it's the special Yharnam blood. And the Japanese name for it is transfusion solution, which is a lot more direct.
Transfusion solution?
Yeah.
Here in Transfusion Solution, we care about your health.
Yeah. So it's much more direct that this is about, it's the blood. It's not that you found a vial of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah, it is special blood that is used in blood ministration.
Cool.
So, no regular blood will not work. And that's why, when we came to Yharnam, we had to be ministered before we could use these blood vials.
Okay, but where do they get this special blood from?
Well, they refine it, in this... We talked about this. The idea is that the Yharnamites, they're all, using blood for everything, so they're developing different kinds of blood and transfusing blood in and out of people, and the Healing Church are getting blood out of the Labyrinth. They're getting blood out of weird monsters and stuff and seeing what it does. They're making blood into tablets. They're making blood into sedatives, etc.
Where did the blood saints come into this whole thing?
The blood saints.
Yeah.
Well, they're how different kinds of blood are made, because they'll get someone full of holy blood. They'll get they'll keep experimenting on someone until they have a special kind of quality to their blood, and then they'll bleed them and get holy blood out that way.
So they're can't think of the word. What am I thinking? The analogy.
Well, I was thinking when they used to make vaccines by injecting diseases into horses, and then drawing the blood out of that,
Mm-hmm.
bleeding the horse to get the antibodies and stuff. So I guess it's when if someone is if you have certain diseases, then and it's mild enough, you'll develop antibodies. You'll develop an immunity to it, and then that immunity is capable of you can kind of pass it on.
Uh-huh.
So I was thinking that, they're being used to transfuse. It's just getting a blood transfusion, but the blood is special. So instead of being we need AB positive blood, it's we need the glowing blood that gives you stamina regen.
Okay. Because I was thinking more imagine if you make a soup and you put the ingredients into a cauldron.
Yeah.
So the blood saint is the cauldron.
Yeah, I guess.
So this blood restores HP.
Yes.
How does that happen?
Well, as Miyazaki explained in an interview,
Mm-hmm.
but not anywhere in the game,
Mm-hmm.
the HP in Bloodborne is supposed to represent your, like, it's not literally how much damage you've taken. It's like your will to fight on.
Okay.
That's how he explains the regain system working. It's the idea being that, like, if you get hit and then you back off, it's like you're kind of giving up on the... Sorry, the cat's sneezing.
That's adorable. She's so cute. Oh, God.
Thank you.
Go on.
So the idea is, like, with the regain system, if you're fighting someone
Mm-hmm.
and then you get hit and then you back off, it's like you're backing out of the fight. You're kind of giving up.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get hit and then you immediately hit back and do damage, it's like, no, I'm getting back into the fight. Like, I'm taking control. So that's why the regain system works.
It's like Reborn.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the idea, yeah, that's what it's supposed to represent. That, like, yeah, if you get back in the fight, you're, like, reinvigorated. So that's what the blood is doing. It's like, it's kind of like
Kind of like the bullets
like
from
it's like-
Reborn.
yeah, I don't think that's something a lot of people will understand as an analogy, though.
They'll understand it because they'll be watching a Reborn podcast.
Will they?
Yes.
I say that, but, like, it did get a disturbingly high number of views when you announced it.
Yeah.
Yeah, by which I mean more than one.
And, like, all the comments were positive and it got a ton of likes. Mm-hmm.
I'm just, like, staring off into the distance.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
My old friend. So, the idea is that, like, there's all this talk of, like, the blood soothes our fears. And then, like, this is, again, something that's kind of confused in English but makes more sense in Japanese. It's like the sedatives that they take at Bergenworth. They're made out of blood. The idea is that it's working the same way as the blood vials, where, like, you start to get, like, this reaction to the things around you and you start losing your mind. So if you take this very thick blood serum, it, like, calms you down again. And it says that, like, this is in Japanese. It's kind of in English, but it's confusingly worded. The idea is that Lawrence develops, like, the blood ministration technique, which is, again, not the same thing as Yanomite's using blood, but the church's specific ministration technique he develops as a result of having looked at the sedatives at Bergenworth. Because when he was a scholar at Bergenworth, they were using blood to calm themselves down. So he then extrapolates ministration from that. That you can use blood to, like, get this effect on people. Yeah. But, like, the thing I was getting at when I was saying, like, it's the solution, it's not the vial, is that if you go into the Chalice dungeons, there's, like, monsters down there. Like, a good example is that weird, like, nude mole rat squid thing. If you kill that, it will drop quote-unquote blood vials. It doesn't mean it actually had, like, blood vials on its person. It means that, like, that has blood that's usable to transfuse in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
The rest of the description, can you talk about the rest of the description? Like, what is it trying to convey to us?
Well, once a patient has had their blood ministered, that's what happens to us in the intro.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a unique but common treatment in Yharnam, the city that we're in.
Yeah.
The idea is that, like, once you have been ministered, but only once you've been ministered, doesn't work otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Taking more Yharnam blood Because that's what happens in the intro. He specifically says, like, hey, take a bit of Yharnam blood of your own.
Mm-hmm.
Once that's in you, you're, like, altered physically, so that the Yharnam blood that you take after that, it reinvigorates you. The idea is, like, it recalls your first ministration. Like, it's this big kick. It's like getting a hit of something.
Oh, because, like, the first time you get it, I guess it's like the first time you try really delicious cake, it's like, oh my god, it's amazing. I've never had anything like this before, right? And then when you try the cake again, you may go back to the first time you had it, or whatever, like, in your mind. So I guess that's what they mean?
Yeah.
Like, it gives you a little extra kick?
Yeah, the idea is, like, once you've been ministered once, then if you take any more blood, it's like it's the same kind of, like, kick you got the first time you were ministered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they talk about, like, it's very invigorating, which is, again, what they mean by the HP system. Like, it's not you've taken X amount of physical damage. It's, like, how much, like, vigor do you have? Like, how strong is your, like, will to keep going?
So it's literally drugs.
Yeah.
Or really delicious cake.
Yes. Do you think they had blood cake in Yharnam?
That sounds so disgusting and delicious at the same time, but you know what it makes me think of?
Well, they have blood pudding is a real thing.
Yeah, but...
Yeah.
No, do you know what you made me think of? What visual I had in my head?
What?
Remember Eddie Murphy's last good movie?
That's a pretty deep cut. How far are we going back?
Golden Child? Was it called Golden Child?
There's an Eddie Murphy movie called The Golden Child.
The Golden Child, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's like one of my favorite movies ever. I saw it a billion times.
I'd say Bowfinger is another good Eddie Murphy movie that comes after that.
Oh yeah? What's it about?
Yeah. He plays Bowfinger. It's a Steve Martin Eddie Murphy movie about, like, Eddie Murphy plays a famous movie star and also a guy who looks exactly like him. Who's, like, a complete nerd. And this, like, really awkward, like, loser. And Steve Martin thinks he can get away with pretending that he has the movie star in something by casting this guy.
You know, I remember that movie, and I remember, I remember not liking it.
Yeah?
Yeah. But maybe I'm confusing it with the other movie where he's like Eddie Murphy plays someone who's really spiritual or something. And they're making a movie about him, maybe?
Anyway, Bloodborne.
I don't know, maybe I'm mixing it up with another movie.
I'm actually looking at the Wikipedia,
Eddie Murphy
Blood
Wikipedia?
as a food page. No, Blood as a food.
When did Beverly Hills Cop?
Mid-80s.
I feel like the first one was the best.
Yeah.
The second and the third, they're just like a sort of a imitation on the first.
They serve blood pancakes in Sweden.
With real blood?
They're called blood plattar.
Oh.
Mm.
Can you explain to me Eddie Murphy's phase where he dressed up as, like, other people?
What, when the trailers would be like, starring Eddie Murphy and Eddie Murphy?
Yeah.
Yeah. He liked to play multiple characters by covering himself in latex. And, he sadly never grew out of that, and we ended up with Norbert.
Father Norbert.
Luckily, no one has seen Norbert.
What?
So we can't reference it.
Why? It was popular.
Who's seen Norbert?
I feel like it was really, really popular.
With who?
I don't know. Like, I feel like I saw it and I didn't Like,
Feel like you saw it.
is this the one where there's?
Oh my god!
Oh no, what?
Box office 160 million.
Norbert?
Yeah, off a $60 million budget. That's like really successful.
No, but is this the one where the flubber or whatever?
No, that was not Nutty Professor. Was the one where he was the fat guy who became thin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And
then there was Nutty Professor 2, The Clumps, which is where he was the same character, but you met his family, and they're also all Eddie Murphy.
oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I was thinking Nutty Professor. I don't think I've seen Norbert.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Norbert is basically the same thing, but a lot worse.
Okay.
So what if Eddie Murphy married an amusing fat woman also played by Eddie Murphy? And the joke is that he is thin and meek and she is large and fat and yells at him.
Oh. And I also got a little bit confused because when I said Flubber, it's actually another movie. It's with Robin Williams.
Yeah. I can't even be like, well, at least that's going on Patreon, because it's all going on Patreon. They'll have to listen to that.
I'm trying to remember that movie where the Fly guy, the Fly played in it, I think. What's the Fly's name?
The Fly guy.
The Fly, yeah.
Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah. Let me Google Jeff Goldblum, Eddie Murphy.
Holy man.
Yes! It was that with Eddie Murphy and Jeff Goldblum?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't like that one.
Well, the internet concurs. It has a 4.9 out of 10 on IMDb and a 12% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
I feel like one of the generational gaps I have with people who are only slightly younger than me is having to explain to them that there was a point where Eddie Murphy was very successful and well-liked.
Yeah. In my heart, he's still, like, well-liked. I feel like...
He's well-liked if you remember his early career.
Yeah, that's all I remember, so... Yeah. Vampire in Brooklyn. I feel like I've seen that too, but I don't remember much of it.
Remember when we had a podcast about Bloodborne? That was, must have been 13 minutes ago.
And you know one other movie that...
Ever think of going back to that?
Wait, I have to tell you about the other movie that I had a hard time understanding, like, wrapping my mind around it.
Yeah.
When he's in the mafia or something.
He's made so many, and they're all terrible.
And it was weird, because it was like, I think it starts as a comedy, but then it goes really weird and dark, and you're like, what? Like, it was just, like, very, like, weird.
Is it Harlem Nights?
I don't know. I wouldn't even... I just remember just being
1989 crime comedy written, produced, and directed by Eddie Murphy, starring Eddie Murphy.
Probably that, yeah. No. Now I'm thinking of a movie, but I can't remember the name.
I'm thinking of a video game from 2015.
Okay, one last thing. You have to help me with this movie. I can't remember the name.
Okay, one more.
Tim Allen. I think Tim Allen played in this.
This is going to be a separate episode that's just like, name the Eddie Murphy film.
Okay, it's a Tim Allen movie. I'm sure it's a Tim Allen movie. And it's like funny, but it's also about crime. It's in the 90s, 2000s.
What was it? Can you think of anything about it?
It's funny, but it's also like there's crime. Like guns or something.
Was this just Tim Allen's real life as a drug dealer?
What?
Yeah. Tim Allen was like... He was involved in like... I'm trying to figure out a way to say this. If I get it wrong, we won't be sued. He did some crimes that were drug related with some other people.
Okay.
And basically he was they basically said, we'll let you go if you snitch on everyone else.
Oh, wow.
And that is, like, kind of spun as a story about, like, oh, isn't it great that, like, this guy, he had a rough start, but he reinvented himself as a beloved American comedy icon.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But he is a snitch, confirmed.
Oh, damn, Richard.
He ratted out everyone to the cops.
And the movie I was thinking of, at first I thought it was Big Hit, so I googled Big Hit, but it wasn't it. And I found it. It's called Big Trouble. I remember liking it when I was younger.
I've never heard of this. Did he make the noise in it?
Can you make the noise? Okay.
It's like how I've refused to do everything, but then suddenly the Tim Allen noise, just instantaneously.
I know! I was surprised too. No surprise that most Yarnamates are heavy users of
Just immediately back to this after Tim Allen. Do you think there'll be, like, when we start being able to mod Bloodborne properly, there'll be a mod where every time you get an insight, the character goes, oh? When are we playing the Home Improvement game?
There's a Home Improvement game?
Yeah, you fight dinosaurs. This is not a joke.
Amazing. Is it Yeltsin years, or?
Yes. Well, no, it's PS4. Platinum Games bought the rights. He teams up with Bayonetta. Like, yes, it's a terrible SNES game.
Okay. I don't know, whenever we have time. Okay, we can do this. We just have one line left. No surprise that most Yarnamates are heavy users of blood. What does it tell us?
Because it's like, you know, you take this blood and it's like, makes you all invigorated, and so everyone's like addicted to it and taking it constantly.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, Richie.
Good. That was, I think 5 minutes of Blood Vial, and then a retrospective on the careers of Eddie Murphy and Tim Allen.
Okay.
And I think I'm sorry, because this is a Patreon episode that we can't just say, well, we'll put the crap on Patreon, because, like, that was it. There's no way to contain what was just recorded short of deleting it, which, I mean, if you did that, I wouldn't blame you.
Okay. Thank you, Richie.
It's half an hour.
Okay. Press stop.
Half an hour.